Goeiedag and welcome. My name is Amarenske and today I will be doing a review of the book On the Edge of Gone by Corinne Duyvis. But I read a Dutch translation called Op de rand van het niets because I wanted to support the Dutch version of the book since, it takes place in the Netherlands and Corinne Duyvis is a Dutch person. So this book takes place in Amsterdam, or generally in the future. It's a sci-fi, but not a very strong one. It's 2035 and the comet is due to collide with Earth, a very big comet that might have as well the same effects on Earth as the comet that wiped out dinosaurs. And so we are in Amsterdam, where people are preparing to flee and go to the generation ships so they can go into space and on their way to the sister planets of Earth. But not this one generation ship called the Nassau, who got stranded because they have not fully worked out through the problems and the reparations yet. So they are still stuck, and two of the people went to look for how it went with a certain person in the same neighborhood as where one of them lived. But they get stuck because their car broke down and one of them broke the leg, which by the way was a lesbian married couple, which just happened to be two lesbians who were married. There was not really a big focus on it, which I really like because that fits with the Netherlands. Most people don't really care a lot about your sexuality at all already now. We have a legalized same-sex marriage. We have had it for a very long time already. I don't even remember when they approved it. So it wouldn't be strange at all to just view it as normal, especially from an autistic perspective. I have never really cared a lot about it. It might be because my parents did not really care a lot about it. We have had lesbian neighbors in my youth from the moment I was 4 until very long after that. They were both police officers. They were very nice women. And I only had to ask once to discover that they loved one another. My parents just accepted it, we just accepted it, and all was fine. And that this is the same kind of rap for that. But our main character, Denise, is not only biracial, which doesn't matter at all in the story except for the description of what she looks like, but she also has autism, and a transgender bisexual sister who, in a very subtle way, makes clearer and clearer to her that she is bisexual, but that's told in flashbacks, not in the current events. And what I found in this story is that the way Denise thinks, that was a lot of the same as what I thought when I was about 16. She is very rigid. It seems she has a form of classical autism. I have autism spectrum disorder, but it was not, in the time it was diagnosed, it wasn't diagnosed as just that, it was another kind of it. And it was a very mild kind, but I still recognized thought patterns and problems with concentration and speaking when I get very tired is, for example, one. But also very insecure if I fit in, which also went on in Denise, her past and still present and such. She has problems with intonation, like me, in the way that we have to be very conscious about what kind of intonation we use. And yeah, it's very energy intensive to constantly think about, yes, I have to make this sound like a question. I have to make sure it doesn't sound monotonous because people would not want to watch and listen to it. All that kind of stuff. She has all these social doubts. She also has a problem with cracking a genuine smile, which did not happen to me at all. I can just laugh. And apparently I just look people in the eye, but what was told, not necessarily told to me, but what I experienced is that I have trouble knowing when to look away, or even more precisely, not when to look away, but when to look and when not to look into a person's eyes. I almost always try to make eye contact, even when people are not looking at me. And Denise is the complete opposite. It's not that she cannot make eye contact, is what she said, but that it takes a lot of energy and that it is very, very intimate. So she does not really like to do it. Which is quite funny, and I can kind of understand it because social interactions are already very tiresome for someone who has autism. And if you have a little bit of a more severe case, then I can totally get why it would be very energy intensive. Also a nice one is Denise never told in her secondary school that she has autism because she didn't want to be treated differently than the other people in her school and class, which happened to her in primary school. My primary school and secondary school and university all knew I had autism spectrum disorder and ADHD, but they did not treat me differently for it, unless I asked for them to help me, which I hardly ever did because I thought, if other people can do it, I can do it too. Why would that be so hard? Well, it's hard. If you want me to do a talk on that specifically, just leave a comment below and I might think about it. But it's a very complex thing to explain to people, and it might really help if you read such a book as this one first, because this also already gives a very good perspective and insight in what an autistic brain can function like and how we can think. It's not completely the same. I don't have Denise's tics, for example, and I have had tics, but not so much anymore and not very much. And I recognized, I don't know if I mentioned this before, but Denise is very rigid and very structured, and she always needs the same kind of discipline in her life. If it gets turned on its head, she cannot really stand it. I have this to a milder degree that if I am in new situations with other people, I can get totally anxious and very nervous, and I have always had like a problem asking questions to people, especially face to face, not necessarily in a more written kind of way. But I also have always had trouble with just calling a person and asking for the most simple of things. And I can see this happening to Denise. Also, although they don't even have phones in here, they have similar things, but not really phones. They have more developed like watches. It almost seems like a futuristic kind of Apple Watch you can call with and go on the internet with and type on and all that kind of stuff. But outside of those, they call it comms, I believe. Outside of those and the ships and more streamlined and easier driving cars, this world is not very futuristic. The Bijlmer has changed a little bit. I studied in the neighborhood of Amsterdam, so I have a pretty good inkling of what the city looks like. And they even mentioned, she even mentioned one of the cities I have lived in as a student as one of the places where the hiding places are, Weesp, which is very interesting, but also very near the beginning of the book, I think. I don't know if this is really a spoiler, but Norway causes a tsunami that floods half of the Netherlands because, of course, everybody already knows we live below sea level. And on top of getting a huge meteor shock we get flooded by a tsunami, even though we have a whole lot of like protection from all kinds of way, from dunes to dams and all kinds of things. I cannot even think of all the names of it right now. But apparently the dunes have been shocked away, and now the tsunami hit the coast because part of our coasts are dynamic. And all the areas that previously were in any way, shape or form more of a moor type of area have now been flooded, and people have been drowned when they were looking for help and stuff. Buildings have been even more ruined than they were before, and like stuff is completely messed up. It's really worth reading. Already the setting is very dark. The character with autism is explored really well. And I can say nothing but great things. This is one of my new favorite books, and I totally recommend anyone to read it, because anything for a little bit more understanding of people who have autism, so that they can find a better place in society and not get stuck at home because all the impulses are way too much to even finish the internship of your studies, which happened to me, and now I haven't even gotten a degree because of that. At least Denise sort of finds her spot and finds a way to make it work in the end, so it seems. The book is actually about finding her sister, so this was not in any way, shape or form spoiling anything from the book. But all I can say again and again is read this, so you can hopefully understand autistic people a little bit better. Even though the disclaimer in this book says, this of course is only one perspective and only one way it is experienced, it's still very valid, and I think a lot of autistic people can, at least in one way or another, recognize themselves in this, because the symptoms are relatively common. You need to have a certain amount of the symptoms to get a diagnosis. And yeah, this was it for now. Thank you for watching, and tot de keer!